Hi everyone. My name's Steve Trask. I'm COO of the FinOps Foundation, and I'm here to kind of cover the State of FinOps Report 2026 with you. FinOps Foundation is a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing the people who manage the value of technology. It's a free to join organization. You can just go to finops.org and take part and join the community. This year, we have segments on the size of organization, popular industries that took part, regional coverage, slightly different for last year, is kind of with an increase in respondents from Europe and Asia. This is a good snapshot of our community as a whole. Respondents represent 83 billion plus in cloud spend, and I would say more because not everyone can share that information. And it also doesn't include areas such as SaaS, data centers, licensing, and all the different technologies included in the organization. New to this year's report, we're also conducted interviews with practitioners and the community and integrated viewpoints from executives as well. So I won't hold back. Let's dive in and kind of get started. So looking at reporting and team structure, the vast majority are reporting to CIO and CTO, aligning with previous data we collected. We combine these together as insights show that these roles are really interlinked, often one reporting to the other, depending on the organization size or type or structure. This CTO CIO segment has increased 18% since 2023, showing that continued consolidation around this area. While the reporting line to the CFO shows a 6% decline. So it's really kind of like the mainstay where the most FinOps teams and practices kind of report. Team structures are around enabling centrally, and another version being hub and spoke, both equating to 81% in total. Those with hub and spoke structures are mainly from larger enterprises, those 10,000 plus organizations. There is also 10% doing FinOps activities while not having a defined team in their organizations. You don't need a team to do FinOps. This is aligned to those with lower technology spends. Typically, it starts with evolving with like a part-time person, typically with an engineering side, who starts taking on that cloud cost management, especially when their technology categories grow, it suddenly kind of expands out, and then you need to make those full-time employees and then build out the team from there. But as costs rapidly rise, some people kind of bring in a team straight away. I want to bring a real world example. This is from a financial institution, team structure, obviously a multinational, very large. And you can see how kind of like the FinOps team is actually kind of aligned to the IT COO, which reports to the CIO, group CIO, then goes up to the CEO. So team size, we're talking about team size and how big teams are. Uh, we have not gathered data on this for a few years, and it shows teams are running slightly leaner than previously found. Those managing 15 to 100 million in annual public cloud spend, having an average of three practitioners and one contractor service provider. However, this data is really hard to pin down. It really is dependent on the organization, the spend, and it does vary a lot. And it does also considerations of what partnerships and service providers have you got in the mix. But it does kind of depend on your individual organization and part-time support and what technology areas do you cover and what skills do you have. So it really is down to the fabric of your organization. This is just a guide, I would say. When asked about what skill sets are you looking to add in the next 12 months, AI cost management is clear top desired skill, followed by tooling, engineering, automation, capacity planning, forecasting. It's interesting to know all of these are very technical skills and several engineering based. No matter the size of the team, all have AI cost management as the most required skill set in the next 12 months. However, the notable differences across annual high spend brackets are higher requirements for engineering and automation development skills more than others. So just to kind of give again another real world example from another financial services company, having an existing team that has those kind of like key kind of common personas, they're looking to add those skills, those AI skills, those SREs, the sustainability actually coming in, the data scientist. Data is becoming a more important persona as well within FinOps, especially with the evolution of AI. So it shows you how these team is evolving and growing to add these different skill sets, what they're looking to build in. but also kind of like how do they kind of partner with the organization? You know, you're typically going with leadership, finance, product, engineering, but now it's kind of like on-prem data center teams, SaaS, enterprise architecture, technology strategy. So it's also expanding across the business as kind of different technology categories come under the remit of the FinOps team as well, and working with those partners. So it really is kind of expanding, adding skills, and adding kind of like the expansion across the organization of who they interact with. So, organizational alignment, collaboration between teams. We talked around Sam there. Teams are continuing to the increasing trend from previous years of collaboration, often with ITFM and ITAM and ITSM, have the largest year-on-year rise in collaboration. For team integrations, it's also increased across all areas shown, with ITFM having the largest year-on-year increase, adding 6 percentage points. We saw that increased collaboration was most likely at large enterprises, and then team integrations more likely at SMBs, probably around kind of friction to be able to actually get those processes aligned quickly is much easier at a small organization, where a larger organization keep the same models but bring in the collaboration tighter. Also noting the rise in sustainability ESG teams collaboration and integration. This aligns with more European respondents, but did not mean an increase in priority, which we'll cover soon. We're also hearing platform engineering is another area that requires collaboration that we definitely need to go into more. So this is the current priorities. Optimization is top, the same as last year, and is likely really to remain the focus for practitioners, especially for those managing additional technology categories, which itself rises 6 places to second compared to last year. From interviews, we heard increasingly optimization efforts are funding AI initiatives. We need to be more efficient with our technology to free up resources and funds to kind of put into those AI projects. Interestingly, those who are not prioritizing optimization of workloads outnumbered those who selected it as a priority. Their responses were just more dispersed across that longer tail of options. However, they are prioritizing applying FinOps to more areas of spend, FinOps for AI, and governance at scale. That's where they're really kind of focusing. It's worth noticing reporting on cloud carbon, which we mentioned the ESG kind of link there before, and staffing still persist as the lowest priority. Reporting on cloud carbon actually decreased 4 percentage points year on year, even though respondents from Europe increased. That this is not saying the work is not being done. It's just currently not being prioritized against other activities. They can still be doing it. It could be just it's just happening as a day to day, and it's a straightforward process. It's just not increasing as a priority for them. This is a quote from one of our interviews showing the rising trend we are finding amongst, the more mature practices, demonstrating optimization opportunities on public cloud are smaller and potentially more time consuming for less return, leading to more automation. And that's where we're seeing that those desired skills, those kind of like building out those, developing those automations. This also aligns with managing additional technology spend as opportunities might have more impact. There's more greenfield there to kind of go after. Again, this is all about how mature your practice is. Less mature practices, if you've only just started adopting FinOps, that's okay. You've just got to start where you are. And there's a lot more opportunity potentially in the public cloud space. But with the more mature people, more mature practices that have been doing this a long time, the low-hanging fruit is gone, and they need to kind of like be more efficient within themselves and find those, if they're being tasked to find those optimizations, are looking slightly further afield into those different technology categories. So these are the future priorities. What are folks planning to work on in the next 12 months? The biggest increase is FinOps for AI, taking the top spot, moving up 6 places quite dramatically with an additional 13 percentage points. Also, AI for FinOps moves up significantly, which may relate to staffing and acquiring talent that also drops to last. Applying FinOps to additional technology areas remains at number 2. That's really it's really kind of like poignant because to persistently stay there over current priorities and future priorities really means it's kind of like embedded as a key function and priority for practitioners. And defining unit economics jumps five places. We do see, anecdotally, we do see a kind of connection between those selecting FinOps for AI and unit economics throughout the data in the report. There's that combination typically kind of shows up in multiple places. So, digging into the areas of additional technology spend being managed today in the next 12 months, which is the second highest priority, if you remember, from the current and future, which is very telling. Planned increases in SaaS have actually materialized from last year and continue on the same trend with, rising to 90%. Other areas have seen increases, demonstrating why it's such a high priority for respondents and consistently is so. It's worth noting nearly half are managing or planning to manage data center spend this year, which is interesting. It's kind of like this expansion across technology categories is kind of quicker than I personally thought it would be, but it actually really resonates that people are looking further afield to bring these all to get kind of together. It's also worth noting that 16% are managing labor today and 12% are planning to in the next 12 months. This was actually a hot topic within a conversation with a group of advanced practitioners with a portion already kind of managing labor costs now, relating it to like if you're going to manage data center costs, you need to be kind of including labor costs as part of that total cost. But also kind of like comparing it with labor costs with certain AI efforts. It's like if we're investing in AI or investing in staff, and it's that technology and people kind of balance is shifting within organizations at the moment. But other people are wanting to do it, but they need access to the data. They need to kind of be able to kind of get that staffing data in there and labor data in there. So it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. So if we double click on the SaaS spend area, what does that mean and how people are doing that? Data cloud platforms is the most popular area, along with observability. I mean, data cloud platforms is very cloud-like. I would say it's the closest spend in technology of the SaaS spend. But AI services are making an impact. You can see that they're the biggest planned increase in the next year. From interviews, SaaS is seen as an important area, potential optimizations with leadership driving the mandate for this. They're asking the FinOps teams to kind of like what can they do and support potentially with an ITAM team in collaboration and kind of like optimize within the SaaS area. But others have stated actually they're being proactive about it. They're leaning it into themselves. They're not waiting for a mandate. They're actually seeing the opportunity of how they can improve efficiency within their technology spend for their organization. Another key point here is 8% are currently managing all these types of SaaS. And that rises to 12, expected to manage this in the next 12 months. But it does highlight there's so much room for growth within this SaaS technology spend area. We're getting, SaaS is changing dramatically. It's bringing in AI features. It's kind of, lots of areas of the business have the ability to procure SaaS as well. So there's a lot of ability to expand within all these areas of management for SaaS. So I think we're just at the beginning. A lot of people are managing some form of SaaS. Are they going to be managing kind of different areas of SaaS, the more business kind of SaaS? I think that's going to be interesting of how that develops. So I added this slide in because there's an interesting aspect. Software is becoming more cloud-like. I mentioned kind of like data cloud platforms are kind of the most cloud-like pricing model, but we're seeing this change where spend across technology categories is becoming more variable, more volatile. If it's managed like a fixed one-off cost, it creates risk because if you just manage it once, it's continuously changing. It's continuously kind of like updating. Cloud is not just one change like infrastructure. It changing. It changed the timing of cost, and it links back to economic signals. The risk being raised too late. You've got to monitor these continuously to be able to do this. And we're seeing this change of pricing models across the different technology categories. Each technology category works differently. Pricing and risk models are getting more blurred as ecosystems get more complex. Public cloud has commitments, on-demand overages, marketplace spend. It could go through marketplace. SaaS has base subscriptions, usage tiers, overages, especially within AI features. You pay on consumption for those additional AI features within SaaS. Licenses have entitlements plus consumption-based scaling. Data clouds have virtual currencies, integration cost drivers, marketplace add-ons. AI, you might have reserve capacity, token-based usage. So there's lots of complexity. It's just that change that consumption-based pricing models are increasing, especially across in the SaaS space. And that's driving that need to manage that more closely, more granular, there's more data available. And this is the part that's driving that expansion of technology categories for the FinOps teams. So when we looked at the capabilities in the state of FinOps that practitioners are applying to the different areas of spend, there were notable differences to 2025 when budgeting and forecasting was top. Allocation is top across all areas. This could be in relation to data being less available for certain technology categories compared to public cloud, but there's still from the understanding usage and cost domain. So there's still a lot of we want to kind of understand it, allocate it, get that visibility for it. Another change from last year is how optimization and tools and services are appearing now. As maturity develops, folks are progressing from that understanding, visibility, allocating it to optimizing efforts, and also looking at how can it be done more effectively with tooling and services, especially like look at the team size. How do we be more productive? How can they utilize tooling to solve some of these capabilities and challenges around these different technology categories? So managing AI spend, it's become the norm for FinOps practices. We predicted it last year. We don't typically predict, but we did forecast that. The continued AI investment, we see the rise in the need to manage this area, especially how quickly it's doing. You can see it's kind of increased from 2024, 31% to 2026, 98%. It is so quickly come into this space. From interviews and conversations, it is just a new technology type for practitioners in some ways to deal with. But also there are a lot of challenges that come with it because there's a lot of differences with it. So we asked around the challenges within this area, and there was three predominant challenges practitioners are facing when applying FinOps to the AI spend. Understanding the full scope of AI spending. There could be new areas of the business using AI they're unaware of. Especially within the SaaS area, it's kind of HR or marketing might be utilizing things where it's utilizing AI on a consumption basis that they're just spending. Quantifying the value for that spend seems to be a persistent challenge with AI. How can, they're testing the use cases. Sometimes AI projects can be more kind of like science than engineering, and it's kind of like are they developing it with cost in mind, that shift left mentality? Are they thinking about what models they're using early on, or are they just proving out the use case and then finding, that quantifying that value is harder because the underlying costs? And then allocating the spend. How do you kind of allocate something that's been used by different areas of the business or split across different kind of products itself? It'll be interesting to see how these challenges persist in the coming years. It's definitely a hot topic within the community and how we kind of like build best practices around this. There's been a lot of work around that recently, and go to the website and check out some of the resources. But the start in overcoming these challenges, but it's an organizational challenge as well of how to quantify that value for the end customer and organization as a whole. So planned investments in AI, it remains strong, heavy investment still in public cloud, along with increases in SaaS. This includes AI services, and also increases in data center and private cloud. So it has no signs of stopping. It is kind of here to stay. A notable point from the interviews highlighted on this slide is the level of spend management and processes varies as a number shared how the focus is on speed and innovation versus the cost and value. What's the cost for not developing features in AI? What's the cost in not investing a certain amount as an organization? So they're trying to kind of like be ready to have a stronger governance, but a lot of people were saying that speed and innovation is the priority for them at the moment. We do expect that to switch at some point, but it has no signs of slowing down at the moment. Now switching to AI for FinOps, how important is using AI for your FinOps practice? When we did the survey, almost half said it was of high importance and only 19% consider it low importance. Those who deem it higher importance typically are in the large enterprise organizations. Practitioners stated use cases such as like tagging and smaller optimization opportunities and automated remediations, even in the cloud native aspects and even in the free tooling, build out forecasts. It really is going to impact more and more over the next 12 months. This is a really rising topic within the community itself as well. The context files for the governance for AI to put into. So there's lots to do in that area. I will touch on tooling. We do not ask any specific tooling questions as we do not rank or recommend tooling. That is for the analysts to do. We asked what FinOps tool features or capabilities would you like to see that do not exist today? This is a free form response. So we analyzed and grouped all the information. The top three in order were granular monitoring of AI spend, around tokens, LLM requests, GPU utilization. It goes with all the trend throughout the report is AI is coming top in multiple areas. Pre-deployment costings that relate to that enabling shift left. How do we get costs in front of kind of like the engineer, but even potentially further, how do we get that cost kind of modeling at that business case stage? But that's definitely a kind of an interest area. And then giving a single pane of glass to show the spend across different technology categories as practitioners are looking to their remit being widened and including different technology categories because AI uses different technologies and it's just the mix of an organization. How can they get that into a single pane of glass and manage their SaaS costs and their cloud costs and do those trade-off decisions? These align with the priorities and how AI's kind of spend is impacting all areas, including tooling. Other notable groupings included automation, be that relating to productivity, unit economics, again as a rising priority that was focus adoption, managing software licenses, and granular shared cost container allocation. So it's interesting the tooling space and how AI is going to be coming into this, but how the priorities are the features people are looking for aligning to those priorities and having the support from the tooling to be more productive. So when asking respondents, what level of technology selection does FinOps influence? If we cross-referenced it with the level in the organization that enabled with FinOps data, we found those enabling at the VP, SVP plus levels have much more influence over technology selection than those enabling the director level with FinOps data. This shows the real importance of enabling at higher levels, building a FinOps culture in the organization to gain influence and drive more value and overall success of the FinOps practice. This is not just which service should we use for this influence. It's a kind of like which cloud should we use, or should we putting this into the data center, or do we have a minimum revenue commit to a certain provider that we need to put this into, or is SaaS gonna fill this space? It's about that influence to kind of like inform people of the most efficient way to deploy that application or kind of like the placement of that workload. This also relates to the roles that we're now seeing at the higher levels above the FinOps team, utilizing that data for the broader strategic technology decisions. when those large organizations have done large contract with technology providers, the FinOps team is providing the data to provide the context that feed into those kind of decisions through the layers of the organization. Again, it's a cultural discipline which kind of now includes a strong leadership tie. So moving on to focus, we are seeing an increase in those who are obtaining focus formatted billing data. This is likely to continued improvements in the specification for practitioner use cases and the growing ecosystem of data generators. There's even more that came out last week. We are also hearing FinOps platforms and tools integrating it in as a focus is a complementary tool for platforms as well. It's an easier way to kind of unify those costs and talk about those costs as a whole. Practitioners are looking for focus support in additional areas like Microsoft 365 is a top request again. Likely some of these are driven by persistent challenges or growing investments. And this connects to the demand for unified billing, visibility across technologies, as shown in the tooling slide. People really want to kind of like see this all together. There is also a long tail of additional requests that people are looking to kind of bring their data in, and this is changing. I would say monthly. There's more data providers coming in to support the project. The AI narrative continues, where practitioners would like to see focus expand to be with being the top request, supported, followed by data center. There are subtle differences between cloud spend levels here, with those spending $100 million plus in cloud spend wanted extra support for data center costs, more, and then more support for AI workloads. The team is already developing assets around these areas. And of course, all this information feeds into the focus project itself. AI dominates the agenda. Utilizing AI for FinOps is obviously an increasing aspect as well. FinOps has expanded across technology categories, especially SaaS. Optimization is table stakes. It's just something teams do. It's kind of like mature practices are really focusing on the area of value. And that's that shifting up because it enables higher levels in the organization, has more influence in technology choice. So it does really kind of like inform that cultural kind of decision making up in the organization. Shift left is happening. It's a highly desired feature within tooling, but there's still challenges within that. Intersecting disciplines are converging. The trend we've seen in the last 3 years, further collaboration, especially with ITFM or ITAM at larger enterprises, collaborate. Smaller teams, smaller organizations, they integrate. Teams are small and lean. FinOps is primarily enabled centrally, but with embedded champions, especially at larger enterprises. Remember, FinOps is everyone's job. Okay, thank you very much for kind of like hearing me on all those lots of data points on there. The full report is available at data.finops.org. You can go read it all. You can kind of click through and kind of like filter things on charts and things and get to the aspects you're looking for. Happy to kind of like share any insights. If you're looking for anything particular, please feel free to reach out directly. Also, I will get a mention in. We have our FinOps X annual conference in San Diego coming up. If you want to dive deeper, if you want to meet the 2,500 attendees that's going to be talking about this and developing the best practices, we'd love to have you there. We'd love to see you there. Just go to finops.org and you can find the link to FinOps X and all the details there. The agenda is there. Excited to have Flexera as a sponsor as well, and all the team going to be present to be there.